Hello, everybody. I'm Vince Mickens with All Things Aviation and Aerospace and with the Private Air Media Group. And I'm always excited to have this kind of a show. I do want to stand down for just a second to you why you haven't seen shows from me for the last few months. It's been a difficult couple of months, or several months actually. One with Brigadier General Charles E. McGee passing away on January 16th, and the things that led up to that. And then I had two colleagues, one a friend of mine in television that passed away in the end of February of stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And then my best friend passed away just a few days later of the same cancer. So it has been a rough go. And I just wanted to share that so everybody wouldn't think, oh God, Vince just kind of disappeared, stopped doing shows. Trust me, I've missed being on and doing these because I've gotten a lot of great response with regard to what we try to do to inspire, particularly the up and coming younger generation to pursue opportunities in aviation and aerospace. And thus that brings me to Women in Aviation International. Yeah, the timing's kind of good. A week from today is their conference in Nashville, Tennessee, at the Gaylord Opryland Resort and Convention Center. That's going to be great. That's a 3-day conference. So March 17th through the 19th, again, a week from today. And really excited about that. Happens to be Women's History Month, happened to be International Women's Day the other day, all kind of coincides. So I have a great panel that's going to be a lot of fun to talk to. Allison McKay, CEO of Women in Aviation International, has been on the show a couple of times, and we've always had great conversations to talk about the opportunities in the industry. There's a great history with Women in Aviation International. A lot of people know it now as WAI, and so just being able to have you on, Allison, just before your big conference in itself is very much appreciated. Allison was previously president of Helicopter Association International Foundation, and has over 20 years of experience in the development and implementation of strategic aviation initiatives. And Allison, when you and I were just talking about HAI's conference that's taking place as we speak, and from what I hear from you, it was very vibrant, very well attended.
Yeah, yes, I was there earlier this week, and it was just great to see a show like they were in the pre-pandemic times, and everybody was just so excited to be back together and networking in person.
Sure. Well, welcome back to All Things Aviation and Aerospace.
Thank you. And we actually just had the opportunity, a week or two ago, to finally meet in person. So
we did.
It was great to see you outside.
I heard my name yelled, and I look over, and I'm like, "Oh, it's Allison!" And I've never met her before.
Exactly.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah, at the Gamma reception.
Yeah.
So that was really nice to meet you in person, and now we know each other even a little bit better.
That's right.
Although we've had a lot of virtual time together. So
yep.
We also have with us Olga Custodio. Olga is the United States Air Force pilot, retired. She's also an American Airlines captain, retired, and currently is an advisor to the board of directors of the Latino Pilots Association. Olga, you've been on the show before. It's great to have you back as well.
Thank you, Vince. It's great to be here and see you again. And I hope to meet you in person one day too.
Same here. So, and then a new guest for me, and someone I've met for the first time today, and that's Joy Forrest. Joy is a network operations control, operations support coordinator for Southwest Airlines. Joy, welcome.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Glad to have you. And last but not least, we have Jessica Belcher. Jessica, am I pronouncing your last name correct?
Yes, Belcher, just
Great,
like
because I did not check with you before, and I usually do. Jessica Belcher is a sales and marketing professional with exclusive aircraft sales in awfully cold Minnesota. No, I'm just kidding. But up there in the Twin Cities area. Jessica, it's great to have you on the show, and nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you, Vince, and nice to be here with all of these phenomenal ladies. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. You know, it's really great to, as I said before, to have this conversation and talk about Women in Aviation International, particularly about the conference and everything. But to give it a little bit of context, I'd like to start out with talking a little bit with each of you about your backgrounds. And Allison, I'll start with you. I mentioned a few things, but could you tell us a little bit about where you're from and your involvement in aviation and et cetera?
Yep. I'm from Maryland. I currently live in Northern Virginia. I graduated from Virginia Tech with a marketing degree and was looking for a job. And a lot of the organizations that would come to try to recruit on campus were financial services, insurance, a lot of rental car companies, and none of those really felt like they would be an exciting career path for me. And so I went home for a few weeks, and my college roommate was interning. She was an engineering major, interning at an airplane seat manufacturer in North Carolina, and said, "Hey, I saw this job posted on the job board for a sales and marketing administrator." And I said, "Oh, well, all right, I'm going to apply for that." And I went down and I interviewed, and just a really interesting job and something I had never really even thought about as, making airplane seats. And so I took the job, and I've never kind of looked back. I've been in aviation my entire career, working on in marketing, government affairs, PR. And it wasn't until I was working for a French aircraft equipment manufacturer that they wanted to do some nonprofit work in the United States, and they wanted to give back to the local communities. And I was the one that was appointed to try to find some good fits. And we started working with a school in DC to try to bring some STEM curriculum to them. And that's where I found my passion in that segment of the industry, which is inspiring the next generation, providing opportunity for those that may not think that they have a path outside of high school. And so I ended up here, which is fantastic.
Yes, and Women in Aviation International has been quite busy.
Yes.
For a long time, but in recent years in particular, it just seems like things have really ramped up. You guys have some great initiatives and activities and things like that. Let me jump over to Joy Forrest. Joy is with Southwest Airlines, as I mentioned earlier. Joy, tell us a little bit about you and your background, where you're from, how you got into aviation, how you got to Southwest Airlines.
Sure.
And what you do for them.
Sure. Well, I didn't have anyone in my family that was really involved in aviation growing up, but it was something that was just always tremendously interesting to me. So after high school, I selected a college here in Texas that had an aviation program. I moved to Texas from a small town in Missouri to attend Latino University. And there I did a aeronautical science stint with American Airlines doing maintenance scheduling, turned a wrench for a little while after college, and ended up in sales and marketing at a aircraft completions company. So similar to Allison's story, did sales and marketing there for a few years, and then had the opportunity to move into the Dallas area and do aircraft sales for the past 12 years. So I've now—
Wow, you've done a little bit of everything.
I've done a little bit of everything. So just recently, actually, at the beginning of the year, I had an opportunity to join an incredible operations team here at Southwest. So I'm still a newbie here, but what I do is I work in the Network Operations Control Center, or the NOC, as people call it, which is basically the nerve center of the operation for Southwest Airlines. And I'm working with a team that handles the scheduling of the employees that are making the NOC, making the system work. That's the short version of it. But I attended my first Women in Aviation conference back in 2002 while I was in college, and really had no idea how much the organization will become a part of my life. I'm currently on the board of the North Texas chapter, and I'm so thrilled to serve there. And we do a big Girls in Aviation Day, which is so exciting every fall. But that's a little bit about me. I've done a little bit of everything. But
No, that's great. I have to ask you because I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. So what small town in Missouri are you from?
It's Warrenton. So it's
Okay.
I-70. If you're
Yes.
headed west, I tell people
know
it's the
exactly
outlet
where it
malls.
is.
Oh, the outlet malls. 5,000 people. We had more cows than people.
Well, that's great. Well, this is great when as I talk to you guys about this because it's great for our younger viewers and listeners to see and hear about the variety of things you may go through as you get, as your path takes you wherever you're going to go in our industry. So, and I see Jessica shaking her head. Yes, absolutely. Yep. So, and yes, Jessica, I was teaching you a little bit about cold country, but me being from the Midwest, I know a little bit about it. But tell us about your background. And by the way, congratulations, 40 under 40 for NBAA. That's quite an accomplishment, recognition. So applause. So, but tell us about you and where you're originally from, which when everybody hears it, they're going to go, oh, and she's in Minnesota?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So thank you. I'm originally from just outside of Birmingham, Alabama. So yes, quite a different space from here in the Twin Cities. But I've been here for about 15 years. To back up a little bit though, just for my own aviation history, as a child, I wanted to be an astronaut. And I feel like if we ask around the room, if there's anyone else who was a child, like, I want to do that. Yeah, probably lots of hands would go up. So
that's absolutely true.
Right? Like a fellow astronaut failure. But the way I like to think of it helped us, but aviation got us. You know what I mean? And what I mean from that is, as a teenager, my first job when I was a junior in high school was at the FBO in my hometown. I had no idea what FBO meant, could maybe have picked out that's an airplane, that's a helicopter, but knew nothing, right? So, but thought, maybe if this astronaut path is something I could pursue, let's jump with both feet into this aviation world and learn it. So that's what I did as a teen and just absolutely fell in love with aviation. To give a little more background, I am not a pilot. I have flown, but I'm not a certificated pilot by any means.
You're forgiven.
What's that? I'm forgiven.
You're forgiven.
Thank you. Well, I like to use that and share that with people to continue my platform to say, yes, I'm in the industry, very immersed in the industry. And there are places for people that are also not pilots. I love our pilots.
Absolutely.
We need our pilots.
Absolutely.
We need our mechanics. We need our flight attendants. We need all of those roles. But I like to kind of broaden the situation and say there are so many other things we can do. So for me, I'm with Exclusive Aircraft Sales. We're based here in the Twin Cities. And I support all of our sales directors. So I'm doing marketing for our team. I'm managing social media, market research, aircraft photography, all sorts of things that fall under this role to support the sales process. So, and I'm just one example of things you can do within aviation.
Yep. And you're president of the chapter. I don't know if you mentioned that, but
I didn't.
Yeah, you're president of the Women in Aviation chapter there in Minnesota.
Yes, we are the Stars of the North. And just as Ms. Joy mentioned, our Girls in Aviation Day event each fall is a really great event that we put on as well. So you guys will hear more about that at conference next week, if I may give a plug, as we are helping to conversation and talk about.
Please tell us. Please tell us about what's happening next week at Women in Aviation.
I mean, I know I'm jumping ahead. I apologize, but some of my friends and I, leadership with Stars of the North, are going to be talking about Girls in Aviation Day events and some things you can do to maybe put on your first one or to continue the outreach that you're doing with your current Girls Day events. So I'm very excited for that opportunity.
No, that's fantastic. And we continue with the variety of backgrounds. So why don't we just throw Olga into the mix and see what Olga did to get where she is today?
Well, thank you. For me, my story is a long path. It took me 10 years to get to where I wanted to be. So I always share that with young students, that denial does not mean it's never going to happen. So just stay the path and look for the opportunities. But I was very young 16, graduated high school, went right to college. And I was looking to join the military through the ROTC program, but women weren't allowed in those programs back then. And so I had to change my plan. I was going to do a math major. I love, math. And so I went into a business degree with a minor in math, went on, worked for a commuter airline. And that's where I met my husband. We just had our anniversary, 48 years yesterday.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
More applause.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, he's my partner, my friend, we tell everybody we grew up together, basically, because we got married very young. But it's been great. He joined the military, I couldn't join. And then finally we moved down to the Canal Zone in Panama, and I started working with the Department of Defense. I had several jobs, at the commuter airline, I was in accounting. We lived in Little Rock, and I worked for a bank. Then I worked for a law firm, then, just different jobs. But my heart was to serve our country and in the military. At DOD, in Panama, finally, they had an open house. There was a booth, and I found out that the Air Force was looking for women pilot candidates. And I got very excited. I'm like, I want to join the military, and I can have the best job there is in the Air Force. And so that's when my career started there. And basically a pioneer, only one in my class, the first to be an instructor pilot at Laughlin, the first to be an instructor pilot at pilot instructor training at Randolph. And besides that, the first Latina. But those firsts didn't come because I was looking to be first. It just came because I was following my dream and my passion. And then a turning point came. I joined the reserves because I wanted to finish what I started and retire from that. And I went to fly for American Airlines. So that was another pioneer experience there. But it was amazing. I have over 40 years in aviation. I love it. And my passion now is to inspire and do outreach to anybody who wants to listen. Mm-hmm. I love talking to young students and to let them know that no matter what their passion is, there's something in aviation that they can connect it to. So, like Joy and Jessica and Allison, you don't have to be a pilot. You don't have to be a mechanic. You can be anything that you're passionate about, but in aviation. So that's what I do. I'm involved with so many nonprofit organizations, military here locally. We have initiatives that we're working on, and our chapter of Women in Aviation is very active. We've received several grants to put on our Girls in Aviation Day. We have partnerships all over the city, and I'm part of the board too. So yeah. I'm very proud of that. And I joined. Let me explain how I joined Women in Aviation.
Please.
We were on a crew bus. I forget where, somewhere, Chicago or New York. And there was another airline with another female, which I was like, oh, wow, we were unicorns. It was like, oh, look, you're flying. Oh my gosh. And I was so excited to see another female. And so she was saying, hey, we have this Women in Aviation and you should join. I said, well, give me the information. And off we went, and I've been with Women in Aviation for forever. So, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. Well, you've set this up perfectly for us to start talking about the conference. All of you have, with everything that you have shared. And, I've experienced the Girls in Aviation Day firsthand on a couple of occasions. My most recent was this past one. I was actually in Chicago at United for what they were doing for it. And when I say firsthand, I was right there and I saw how effective the program is for the initiative is for young people, seeing these middle to high school age kids being shown the insides of a major airline and even being taken up in the control tower at Chicago O'Hare and things like that. Yeah, it was just, and then the going and seeing every aspect of it, of the operations was just was just great. And this happened, to think that this happens around the world, around the country and around the world, it's just amazing. So I think it's really great. And I want to make sure we don't miss anything. So let's go ahead and start talking. And I'll start with you, Allison. Tell us what's going on. Give us the overview, if you will, about next week and what's going to be happening at your conference.
Yeah. So for those who have never been to one of our events, it's over 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It's probably the best networking event for women in our industry because we represent every face, every profession, every industry segment. There is someone there that has that job, that does that thing, and we're also an organization for those that are in college through those that have retired. And so you see this great cross section of ages and industries and professions, and there's something for everybody. So we have a lot of education sessions, professional development, mentoring opportunities, fantastic speakers that you never think you're going to top the year before. And then there's just another group of women that are just completely inspiring and have achieved so much in their career. But I think really the best part is the networking. And that is what we have missed over the last 2 years. Zoom is great. And we did what we could with the
like
technology.
in person, though.
But I think that it is going to be the largest family reunion we've ever seen next week. So it's going to be really exciting.
If the other conferences are any indicator, the other aviation conferences as of late, then yes, you guys be ready next week. Tell us who your speakers are, if you could, your keynotes.
Okay, so we've got the chair of the NTSB. We have a general from the Air Force. We have a pilot from Afghanistan. We have a VP from Boeing, and then we have a retired pilot, Carol Hobson, whom I have never met, but I feel like I know her via Zoom. So I'm excited to reconnect with some of these really powerful women and meet them for the first time as well.
Yeah. So you guys can all kind of chime in. Let's just talk about, because I went to my first Women in Aviation conference at least 20 years ago. And I was just and it's grown exponentially since then, but I was just amazed at what type of conference it is, how effective it is. And yes, the networking factor, I think, is, as you said, one of the biggest things. But you guys have a lot of information that's put out in that conference, whether it's the briefings, of course, the education sessions and things like that. So let's do a deep dive and talk about some of those things that are near and dear to each of you.
I would say for me, the thing that I love the most about conference, for many of us, we kind of feel like we're 1 in a million in our industry, or maybe 1 in 100. And you walk into conference and there are thousands of women there that are bright, shining stars that are just doing their thing. And so it's just amazing. One, you've got camaraderie immediately, but like on top of that, it's just amazing to see what these other women are doing. That's my favorite thing. For me, I ended up at Southwest because of conference and attending one of the sessions and talking to somebody and, well, what do you do? And you learn, you don't know what you don't know. And so it's such an excellent place just to expand your horizons and meet some of the most fabulous people. The networking is amazing. The information sessions are tremendous. There's so many. You can't attend all of them at the same time, but I wish I could. It's really great.
Yeah. How about you, Olga?
Well, even though I'm retired, I've got 40 years, I still learn something. I always go to conference and I always learn something new. but the networking is amazing. Joy, I'm with you. Meeting new people, hearing their stories, just sharing mine to see if there's any way. And I try and mentor any chance I can, any chance, whoever I speak to. So for me, that's the great part. And just to see all these women, I'm like you, having been alone for so long, just seeing all these women together and women helping women and supporting and advocating, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Jessica?
I kudos and would, echo everything that's been said. I think it's fantastic to have all of these phenomenal people in one room, in one conference, and to be able to learn from each other and feed off of each other's energy and come away from conference with this amazing rejuvenation of these people are out there and this is what we're doing. And we're so thankful to have the conference to be able to go to and to network together and learn together.
Yeah. And one of the attractions are the exhibitors there. Let's talk about the exhibitors and who actually, supports your conference and provides what they do for the conference. Any of you?
And I think it's similar to the WAI members. It's a really interesting cross section of our industry. Obviously the airlines are in full force, and they will be in full force next week, right? We have a lot of shortages with our workforce that they really want to come and try to recruit the next group of employees. But we have a bunch of nonprofits that are in attendance. We have a lot of manufacturers that are in attendance, both on the helicopter side and the airplane side. Really anything kind of you think about in the industry, we will have an exhibitor there. We've got some financial institutions that come. It's just a really interesting group of organizations that you may not have even thought about before you came to conference. It always, to me, expands what I envision this industry and all the components of it.
So one of the things the conference does too is it covers a full spectrum of people from middle school all the way to postgraduate. What do you recommend to someone who hasn't been to this conference before? They're going to be a first timer and they want to get a feel for how to navigate this conference. Yeah.
Well, the one session I think can't miss for the new attendee is the new member connect. Sorry, and so it's a networking event, but it's also kind of a how to navigate conference, and then you're going to also meet people who are first time attendees as well, and then also just look on the website and attend some med sessions. We have a number of different tracks. So if you're a pilot or a maintenance technician or on the support side, like I was, there are a bunch of ed sessions to attend that I think really give you a good flavor for what types of content are available. And then obviously go to the Mentor Connect. I think the minute mentoring is fantastic, and you really get to see a bunch of Olgas and Joys, that are in the industry and have a lot of experience to share.
Yeah. Can I add to that?
Yes, you
Allison?
can.
I think the best thing there is the app that you put on your phone, and it really organizes everything. That way you won't miss anything, so.
That's a good point.
Plug in the app.
Thank you, Olga. Kelly Murphy will be very happy.
She sure will. Joy, I thought you were going to say something.
I do. Yeah. So I love the app too. As soon as it's available, I jump in there and start clicking the things that I want to attend.
Yeah.
But I would tell the first time attendee who's going to initially be overwhelmed with how many people, because you won't expect that many.
Right.
Like, come with an open heart, an open mind, a smile on your face, shake some hands, just introduce yourself. Like, don't be
no time for being shy.
Yeah, it's no time to be shy. Like, for every ounce of gumption you put out there, so much is going to come back to you. So that would be if anyone's watching, if you're not attending this year and you're able to attend next year or one of the future years, introduce yourselves. One, you may end up with a job, and two, you may end up on a totally new career path. So much can happen.
So one of the things that's interesting to me about this conference too is that you guys talked about the variety of attendees, and that a lot of men attend this conference, which I've always found interesting from the first time I ever went to it. But one of the things I wanted to focus on a little bit are the young ladies that will attend. I'm talking about kids that are still in school, that are trying to figure out what their path may end up being, whether they're going to, work for the airlines or private aviation, business aviation, or whether they're going to do something in aerospace. And that, share your thoughts about that with all the experience that you guys have had, and probably conversations that you've had with young people, particularly young ladies.
Well, I can speak to that. I always like to let them know that, and like Joy was saying, talk to anybody and everybody, because you don't know what the job is and you don't know what you don't know, right? So, I mean, if it's any area that you're interested in, seek those people out, look at those opportunities to find people that are in that particular niche of the industry and talk to them, because you may have an idea of what it is, but they will kind of explain it to you. And if it's not what you thought it was, then expand your horizons, So I think that's the best way to approach that, is to find what your interest is and then start approaching, expanding on that. So
yeah.
And
Go ahead.
And even if you don't know what you're interested in, like, just talking to the person in the elevator, like, what, you're a hot air balloon captain? Like,
Right.
like, what?
right.
There's the most interesting people that, like, you don't know what you don't know. Like, if that could be my motto for my career. Like,
No, I think you guys bring up a
Perfect.
great point about that. You don't know. And even those of us who've been in the industry a long time, we still learn things from conferences like Women in Aviation. So point well taken. You guys have a couple of unique things that I was looking and kind of looking over what is going to be taking place next week. And one of the things I saw is called Authors Connect. I thought that was pretty cool. That's emphasizing all of the books. Well, I'll let you tell me.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting part of conference. So we have a bunch of authors who have written really interesting books, both for kids and adults, that focus on some part of aviation. And so they're there to answer questions, talk to you about the content, autograph books. It's everything you don't really think about when you think about going to an aviation conference. I mean, we have some really fantastic authors who have written books about pioneers in the industry, or are trying to engage the next generation and convince them that this is an industry for them. And it's always fascinating to see the books that are there.
How did you guys go about picking Nashville, Tennessee as the conference location for this year? I'm just curious, because Nashville is a very cool place.
Nashville is a very cool place. And I can't take credit for that, because I have only been here in this job for 2 years. And so it was already picked when I got here, but I was in Nashville in the fall for kind of conference prep, and it's a fantastic city. And I know our attendees love to go to Nashville. And being at the Gaylord, it's very self-contained. So there is a lot of opportunity to even network after conference hours. It's just a great venue and a great town.
So what can they look forward to?
Well, it's also
in Nashville, besides outside of the conference.
Yes, so it's also
extracurricular activities,
so
if you will.
I assume there's going to be some after hours enjoyment in downtown Nashville. But yeah, I think that it's just a great social city, and the music is great and the food is great. And so yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Sure. Joy?
My first conference in 2002 was in Nashville, and I loved it. I
20
went
years ago.
Yeah, it's wild. So I had flown out with one of my instructors from the university and a couple of other ladies, and that was my first cross-country trip. And what I loved about Nashville was just one, the Gaylord there is just lovely, but the Opryland is just right next door, and it's everything. There's so much just walkable right around it, and it's a great location, excellent venue.
Yeah.
Great. I'm sorry, I got distracted on something. I was going to actually go to you, Jessica, and talk a little bit more, or let you talk a little bit more about Girls in Aviation, and give us a little bit more insight about that program from your perspective.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So there is a Girls in Aviation Day happening at conference on Saturday for the community in Nashville to come and to take part in. So I'll mention that first. And then Girls in Aviation Day is the annual event put on by WAI for our chapters and for our corporate members to host their own events. The beautiful thing about Girls in Aviation Day is you're able to reach youngsters that want to learn more about aviation in whatever capacity works for you. For some chapters, it works well to have an event on an airport. For others, it's better to have them in a museum or in a hangar or in a different kind of space. And the beauty of the event is you're able to make it fit what works best for you. There are certain rules you have to follow, of course, along with Girls in Aviation Day, like you can't have flying, but that's okay. There are so many other things outside of that to do with the Girls in Aviation Day event. And one of my favorite things about it as well is if you have 10 people and you reach those 10 people, that's amazing. If you have 2,000 people and you reach 2,000 people, that's also amazing. So it's important to keep in mind that you don't get too focused on numbers and attendance and we have this or we have this or we have this, which is all fantastic. But it's really reaching down to the students and showing them these are things you can do. And careers you can pursue and hobbies you can pursue as well. If it's maybe not a career, but it's something you'd like to do in your free time, so many opportunities there. Another thing just to kind of talk about quickly on Girls' Day is something that was mentioned earlier about your partners and your sponsors and your donors and those people and those companies locally that do see what you're doing is great. And then they're supporting that because those people do see the Girls in Aviation Day event in the community as something that they also want to support. So there's lots of different avenues to be involved. Volunteering with those events as well is great. So we've got a lot of different things to do with Girls in Aviation Day.
And do you guys have a special membership program for the students?
Yes, yes, we do. And we actually will be kind of revising our membership categories after conference to make it a little more streamlined and easier to understand. So yeah, we really encourage young people to get involved in the organization. Like everybody has said, it's fantastic for answering a lot of your questions as you are navigating what you think you want your career to be for any, high school and under, and then obviously the collegiate group. We have a ton of collegiate chapters, which I think are really important, especially as you are trying to figure out what am I going to do after college. So,
sure. You were talking about something earlier, all of you, and I wanted to come back to it for a minute. So we've talked about a lot of things that the conference offers. In terms of your attendees and your membership, what do you guys learn? What have you learned from them? Just from them attending and their input and their comments and et cetera? Yeah.
Well, one, I've learned that there are a ton of professions in this industry that I didn't know anything about until I went to conference. But, I think that the biggest takeaway for us as an organization is that they really want a lot of time to talk to each other. And so while we put on a ton of content and events and activities for them, they also want just the opportunity to stand in a hallway or network at a breakfast or do those kinds of things, because a lot of times, we are the one-off or the two-off in our organization. And so we really want that time to have one-on-one conversations with each other about struggles, challenges, opportunities over those 3 days.
Sure. Olga, I saw you nodding in agreement.
Absolutely. You know, this one-on-one experience, or even in a small group, just getting to know each other is so important, because you get the real story. You get, and it's like, you don't remember what they said, but you know how they made you feel, and it inspiring for you to continue forward depending on where you're going. So I think those moments are really, really important. Besides the education and everything, like Allison said, it's important. But getting to make new friends and finding a mentor, I think, is very important. And you can get more than one, you know, depending on where you're going. So I think that one-on-one and small groups interacting and is quite important.
Sure. And hearing from people like Joy as an example, you've already have been well established in the industry and still benefit from this conference. Because our careers in this industry are forever evolving. So you even if you've been established for 10 or 15 or 20 years somewhere, it still might open a door or lead you into an opportunity that you didn't even have on your radar.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think it's very naive to think in college, as I did, as I think most people do, that this is going to be the path. It's going to be a straight line, and I'm going to do this, and this, right? And then you realize, maybe
I think we all
quickly
do that, but it doesn't work out that way.
It is like
I
constantly.
think we all do that. It doesn't work out that way at all.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And for me also, I want to say what I get from conference is I make connections that, and get ideas, like Jessica was saying, ideas that I can bring back to our chapter and in our industry here, because we are Military USA in San Antonio, Texas. We're also an aviation city. So we have Boeing here, and we have a lot of other industry that has started to settle in the city. And we're trying to make aerospace our #1 priority to get the STEM education out there for the kids. So I bring back those ideas with me, and who knows, you know, speakers, that sort of thing. So
Definitely.
It also, it recharges your batteries too.
Oh.
I mean, for a lot of us that are already, they're serving in so many ways on boards and reaching out to your community. Sometimes you get stretched thin, but it's like you come back from conference and you're amped up and you want to just tell everybody about aviation. And, you know, for me, it's, you know, there's just a high that comes off the end of conference.
Yeah. Jessica, tell us a little bit about exclusive aircraft sales in terms of the different types of opportunities there are there from a career standpoint that you've learned about since being there and that you want to share with others that may be thinking of going, for example, that direction.
Sure. So the aircraft sales world is very interesting in that you can go in so many pathways. So with us, for example, we're a brokerage firm. So we're dealing with a lot of used aircraft, not necessarily new. There is an opportunity for that. But what I've learned is a lot of our OEM partners are selling direct with their own salespeople. So you can go with a specific manufacturer. You can go in the used market, kind of like what we are. What I've also learned since being here is there's so many different career paths within aircraft sales. As I mentioned earlier, we have sales directors who are doing the actual selling of the aircraft and working with their clients. But for me, my creative mind gets to come into play when I'm taking photos of the aircraft that we're listing, which is something I didn't know really much about, that aircraft have to be photographed for listings and someone has to take those photos. Who knew?
Mhm.
And if the photos aren't great, they're not going to show that asset in a nice way. So you have to take nice photos. I mean, it seems so simple, but it was just something brand new to me that I didn't know. So that's very exciting to learn and to kind of hone my own skills on and to continue to improve myself in that respect.
And your point is, if you have photographic skills, that's an area you could still be in aviation and enjoy all of the attributes of being in aviation, but do something that, so if just about every niche or every skill set applies somewhere in aviation.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes
100%.
I have, you know, one of the examples I like to give, and I've seen people that have actually thought that in fact, a lot of young people think, oh, I've got to have this degree to get into this aspect of the industry. And Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics has a 2-year program, and I saw somebody recently come out of that program on graduation and got hired at SpaceX. And they got hired at SpaceX, but they had an AMP certification, you know, so they're airframe and power plant mechanic, but I guess they need that over at SpaceX because they hired that person immediately. We were real proud of her. She happened to be on the show when I was doing one with them, and I thought it was really cool. But it's an example I like to use with that because I think it brings up a great point in terms of that. And I was actually gonna transition to you, Olga, because you've had a full career in military, and then you've had a full career with the airlines. For a younger person that's contemplating, you know, what direction should I go? Should I go in the military and fly with the military for a while, or should I go the civilian route, et cetera? What kind of advice do you have for that?
Well, it just depends on the individual.
I was going to say wisdom.
Thank you. I think it just depends on them. You know, if they're looking to serve our country, and that's something I'm very proud of. You know, my military service was best of both uniforms that I wore my Air Force uniform the proudest. Not that American Airlines uniform wasn't great, but I think, you know, it's just a higher calling to serve. So they just have to look at where the opportunities are. They could always start in general aviation and go from there, and then join the military. So the options are there. You know, if they have the opportunity to get a military pilot slot, no matter what branch, then that's a great option, because not only are you getting paid, you're getting trained at the same time. And if you want to fly in general aviation, the certificates are very, very expensive. So that's the other thing, you know, how much access to money do you have? You know, and
there are
those
scholarships.
I feel like Olga is queuing it up for me to talk about another high point at conference.
Yes,
which is
absolutely.
that we have an incredibly robust scholarship program, and we give away a lot of money at conference, and that's nothing better, no better feel-good feeling than giving our recipients their checks at conference. And so this year we're giving away just shy of $470,000. We have 103 scholarships.
This rounded off $500,000.
And to date, it's over $14.5 million that the organization has given away.
That's fantastic.
That's impressive.
Because Olga's right, it is very expensive to do it outside of the military to get this kind of training. And we are trying to eliminate financial barriers as much as we can. You don't want that to be the reason someone doesn't get to pursue their passion. So it's a really great part of our organization.
Yes, it's amazing.
Joy, how about in the airline industry and in particularly in the area that you work in terms of opportunities that are there for the younger generation coming up?
Well, like I mentioned before, I'm still the new kid on the block here. But one thing that I have learned so quickly right now, Southwest is hiring like crazy. So I started in January. We hired 3,000 people roughly in January, 3,000 in February. Right now is an excellent time to consider airlines. And just to echo so many other points, there are so many facets in the airline industry. You can, of course, be a pilot or a mechanic or a crew scheduler or a dispatcher or a meteorologist, or like there's so much there. And so what I've been telling people lately is, you know, just if there's an airline you like, check out their website, start getting their career emails and updates, because right now we are in a all aboard.
And that's true for everyone in this industry. I think that sentiment is echoed, which is hiring full force. They can't get enough people. They need them yesterday, and
which is exciting.
A great place to come. It is, yeah,
because
exactly.
I mean, if you've been around for a while, you know lean years also when you know the hiring was not there, and so if you for me, it's something that's been kind of in the back of my mind for a little while. And, an opportunity appeared through conference and I walked through the door now. So it's a great time to consider airlines.
Yeah.
Right.
At the beginning of the show, I mentioned that it's Women's Month. And I know I just blew that, but but you get my gist. But no, I wanted to spend the last portion of the show and talking about women in the industry. Things have gotten a lot better and things are continuing to improve, but there are still the challenges there. And there are still the statistics of women only being a very small portion of a lot of different aspects of this industry. And I want to open it to everyone and just get your perspective on that as being professional women in the industry, doing what you do. Wide open, ladies.
I would say for me, I'm here because of the women that came before me and opened the door for me. And I challenge people, as you walk through the door, leave it open to bring someone else behind you. So we are still a small number, but that small number is growing. Like, we're coming, and it's exciting to see the younger generations that are even behind me that are clueless to things that I've seen in my 20 years. So
would you agree that mentoring plays a big part of that?
It does. I would also say representation. With the Girls in Aviation Day, for people to actually see somebody that looks like them, that works around airplanes, it's phenomenal. Like, I never saw a female in aviation until I got to college. And so, each year as we see these little girls and boys come to Girls in Aviation Day too, but as we see these children, we're just planting seeds in their lives, and those seeds are growing. And so for me, it's very exciting, and the numbers are coming up slowly but steadily.
Yeah.
I also think we're at, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jessica.
I'm just going to share, we had a success story from one of the first Girls in Aviation Day events we hosted in Minnesota, for a young lady who, named Sophie. She had attended the first one, had no aviation background, just, this sounds fun. She's now in school at UND, and she is doing phenomenal things. We're so excited to follow her career. So planting the seeds is so important, and the work we're doing is changing lives. It's very important. So glad to do it.
I think our industry is understanding the impact that lack of diversity has had, and the importance of reaching out to the underrepresented groups in our industry, because they need to fill all these jobs. And so I see a lot of progress with larger industry partners that really understand how important it is to change the face of aviation, and they are taking active steps to do that.
Right. And I'd like to add to that, Allison. It's an untapped resource that is out there. I mean, when you're diverse, you're more progressive. There's more innovation that happens, and progress is inevitable. But one of the things I want to speak to is, not only do we want to get them there, we want to retain them there. And there lies our problem to date, is women come into the industry, but it's challenging to be in aviation, no matter what position you have. And those are the things that I think we also need to look at, is that mentorship in retaining those women and that diversity in the industry. And that's something that we need to look into a little deeper now that we're moving in that direction. But retention is been hard. And that's why the numbers and percentages have grown so slowly, because we get a bunch in and then they drop out, and that's something to look at, especially for women, just period, because they have to think about families and kids and, all this other stuff that's involved in their lives. And that work-life balance is tricky sometimes. So,
Vince, I sit on the FAA's Women in Aviation Advisory Board, and we are days away from releasing the report. We've been working over the last 2 years on it, and retention is a huge chunk of what our recommendations are for how to really impact change in the industry. And culture at organizations is incredibly important, and it's going to take everybody in this industry to affect change, from the government to our corporate partners to individuals. Just speaking for myself, I've had some great mentors that were men, and I don't think that we can think that we are going to affect change in the industry without having those male allies that see something in us and that push us forward in our careers. While I love my women, and I love of what we can bring to the table together, it's also important to note that men can be just as great advocates on your behalf.
And they are.
Hey, one for the team.
My mentors were all men. So
yeah.
I think it's a great point, and all of the points that you guys just made hit right on what I wanted. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. So as we do, I'd like to give each of you an opportunity to say a few any closing thoughts. I'll start with you, Jessica. And any closing thoughts and recommendations as we get ready for next week.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I would say make sure you wear comfortable shoes if you're coming first time, or if it's your 10th time, make sure your shoes are comfortable. Bring a stack of business cards. And I look forward to seeing all of you guys there. I want to make a lot of new friends, new connections, meet lots of new folks, and I'm excited to learn from all of you. So thank you very much. Looking forward to Nashville next week.
Absolutely. Joy?
I am so thrilled to be there next week as well. It's one of my favorite times of year, seriously, behind Christmas. But yeah, for
behind Christmas, wow, that's putting WAI way up there.
The last conference we had in 2020 was at Disney, and that was that was excellent. But yes, wear comfortable shoes, wear a smile, bring a handshake, a firm handshake. And if you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life, there are so many facets. Like there's an avenue. There's so many avenues where you can end up. So come on, join us.
Yes.
Sounds great. Olga?
Well, I'm with a comfortable shoe.
Yeah.
Also, that's so important because you do a lot of walking. For me, is always have a plan, but be flexible. You know, you said, oh, I want to do this, but if you run into somebody and you just get enthralled and involved in that conversation, that's what's important. So be flexible and just go with it, you know, but do have a plan.
Allison, take us to Nashville.
Yeah, so we are thrilled to get back in person. 2020 conference was a lot of effort, was maybe your last event pre-pandemic. So I'm so happy to have the opportunity to get back in person. We have over 4,000 people coming, 175 exhibitors. It's really a record year for us in terms of attendance. And so, you know, it's not too late if you haven't made your travel plans to come and see us. And if it's not this year, we hope to see you in 2023.
And your website is WAI.org?
Correct.
Okay.
And there's a conference tab that'll give you every bit of information you need.
There you go. Ladies, we've run out of time, but it has been a pleasure talking with you guys and really talking about all aspects of what the industry offers, but in particular, what you guys are going to have next week at the Women in Aviation International Conference. I believe the 33rd conference.
Yep.
So that means I went to more than I even remember. Wow. Okay.
Well, you're just the lucky one.
I'm the lucky one. I'm also the old one. But it really is great to have you guys, and I appreciate it. Allison, thank you so much. Kelly Murphy, if you're watching, thank you for helping put all this together on relatively short notice. Much appreciated. And we're going to all use your mobile app. So even though I won't be there, I'll be using it. But thank you again, ladies. And you guys have a great conference, and all of you take care, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you, guys. Great to see you all. I look forward to next week.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, Vince.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Vince.
Pleasure again.
Thank you.
All right.
Once again, thanks for watching All Things Aviation and Aerospace. My name is Vince Mickens with the Private Air Media Group, and we will continue to do these shows to inspire the next generation in aviation and aerospace. Everybody take care and have a good one.
Thank you.